Here's a unique comparison of two things I've spent some energy and time thinking about over the past year. And those are the relative values of spending 300 times studying for a CFA exam, probably for level 1 starting off in the journey, versus spending 300 hours uploading videos to YouTube. To be honest, I've had this question in mind for some time, so it's exciting to be able to see where this channel is developed to after right around 300 hours of work. The channel has 116 videos now, and each of them takes about 2 to 3 hours to record and edit and upload. The uploads have been consistent for about the last 10 months, and really the handful of uploads that existed prior to the last 10 months were really low quality videos that didn't have much time spent on them anyway. So with those 300 hours and 116 videos on a YouTube channel, it has 9,000 subscribers and a little over 500,000 total video views. The question becomes, is there some future benefit to these things? Probably yes, but then we need to know what it is. To compare that to the first 300 hours used to study for the level 1 exam, which I basically was able to pass that exam with. I use the word basically there because I ended up studying more than 300 hours, but I also scored higher than I needed to have passed that exam, so I think 300 is still a fair comparison there. Is there some future benefit to having passed level 1? Probably yes as well. What is that benefit? So which one of these things is more valuable? Well, let's get into it. First, we're going to review the value of the YouTube channel, which can basically be said as the value of having a certain following. With the way the world works today relative to social media, through interpersonal relationships, or certainly in business, there is a value in having a social media following. Some of my favorite speakers on this would be Gary Vaynerchuk or Josh Brown. Gary V talks about needing to post 100 items per day. You know, he says upload to YouTube, make 10 Instagram posts, 10 Snapchats, 20 TikToks, all these other things, Facebook, LinkedIn, and make 100 posts a day, because that quantity is bound to slowly generate kind of a snowball of a following towards your name or your brand or whatever you're doing. And Gary Vee says that this following that you can generate is going to be necessary for the way business is conducted in the future. The world is moving away from personal interactions and handshakes and more in a direction of a higher quantity of interactions through like Twitter or text messages or something. You can reach out to more people at the same time, and also just social media in general. And business is certainly following that same trend. In this industry and on this same point, one of my favorite speakers would be Josh Brown of Ritholtz Wealth Management. He was working really hard to get TV spots 20 years ago, working really hard to make his blog popular 20 years ago when blogs were a thing that people read on the internet. But 10 years ago, he decided to focus much more on his Twitter and Facebook following because that's the direction that the market was shifting in. Now in the past year, he's really focused on his YouTube following because that's the direction that the financial advice market has shifted in.
I really feel that YouTube, as much as Alphabet shares have gone up, I feel that YouTube is still being undervalued.
I've personally talked to Josh about this, and the way he describes the value of a following relative to doing business is very similar to the way that Gary Vee describes it. It's almost going to be necessary to the way that business will be conducted 10 and 20 years from today. Now, I don't have a business like Gary Vee or Josh Brown, but the fact remains that it can't be a bad thing to have a group of people who are learning from you, trust you, listen to your opinion. You can bounce ideas back and forth with each other. You can collaborate on things. And if I have a business or service that I need customers or employees or help with in the future, all those things are going to be benefited by having this following. So now we're going to discuss the value of having passed the level 1 exam, but I think it's important for me to stop for a moment and mention here that I wouldn't have almost any following at all if it wasn't for having had already passed the CFA exam. The first video that I ever posted that really got any traction, meaning like more than 100 views, was the one where I discussed how I passed all 3 levels of the CFA exams on the first attempt. So really putting in the 300 hours on YouTube wouldn't have been worth it had I not already put in the 300 plus hours in studying for level 1 and then the 1,000 hours total in studying for levels 2 and 3 thereafter. But that is besides the point for trying to make this apples to apples comparison. Just know that in my scenario, it is a factor. So passing the level 1 CFA exam is also valuable. And I've called passing the level 1 exam the biggest step to becoming a CFA charter holder. Even though it is the easiest of the 3 exams, it still has the lowest pass rate because you have a lot of people signing up for the level 1 exam that aren't really all that serious about becoming a CFA charter holder. So level 1 kind of stands as the bouncer at the door to let people into the club to take levels 2 and 3.
Do not fuck.
Statistically, this means that passing level 1 really increases your future likelihood of becoming a CFA charter holder. And we all know that earning that charter would be very beneficial in the future. It's just a question of how beneficial is the one level to it. And in and of itself, passing the level 1 exam isn't going to do all that much for your career or your knowledge base, really. Now, if I had to do it all over again, I certainly would have gone the same route, which is to start with the level 1 exam after college and not focus on a YouTube channel. Again, not because of level 1 itself, but because of the prospects of what passing the level 1 exam can grant you in the future, namely becoming a CFA charter holder. But I think I have to say that YouTube may have been a more valuable way to spend 300 hours. It's really hard to say though, because you never know exactly what a YouTube channel could develop into in the future. Another way to look at this would be in terms of rarity. So how many YouTube channels are there with 10,000 or more subscribers, and how many people are there who have passed the level 1 CFA exam? Well, Social Blade says that there are about 35 million channels on YouTube with 10,000 or more subscribers. But then you gotta say, well, yeah, YouTube is a very broad social media and search engine platform. Level 1 CFA exam is just focused on the finance industry, so how much of business in general is finance? I don't know, maybe 5 to 10%. So maybe multiply the real number by 10 because there are some relative achievements within other industries out there. There are like 150,000 charter holders now, which means there have probably been somewhere around 3 times that number of people who have passed the level 1 exam. So if you did 450 or call it 500,000 times 10, that's 5 million people. It still seems like the 10,000 plus subs on YouTube is more rare. But then you have to wonder, what can it grow into? And that's where my thinking went when I said earlier that YouTube might be a more valuable way to spend 300 hours than studying for level 1. There's a clear progression after passing the level 1 exam, levels 2, level 3, become a charter holder. But with YouTube, I wonder about the likelihood of a channel earning 100,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers in the future. After hitting that 10,000 subscriber mark, I really have no idea, but that would be an interesting number to look at. And also, if you have 10,000 or more subs on YouTube, that puts you in the top 3% of all YouTube channels in terms of subscriber count. I don't think that passing the level 1 exam would put you in the top 3% of all people working in the finance industry. I mean, maybe it would, because there are a ton of people like in banks and things that will never take the CFA exam, so it would be pretty close. But still, it seems to me that having 10,000 subscribers or more on YouTube is a bigger industry-specific accomplishment. Now, the real comparison will come after having done 3 years of uploading on YouTube consistently versus 3 years of studying for the CFA exam. If this channel has like 50,000 or 100,000 subscribers in a couple years from now, I would definitely be excited by that, but I don't think I would assign it a relative value advantage over becoming a CFA charter holder. Sure, it would put you in the top 1% of YouTube channels, and you're certainly going to earn some income from that, but man, I'm a big fan of people pursuing and certainly achieving the CFA charter. If the channel has 500,000 or 1 million subscribers, yeah, I would have to say that I would give up being a charter holder to have a 1 million subscriber channel in the future. It just seems to me that 1 million subscribers is such a strong following that you could accomplish almost anything. You could find people to do anything with you. You could get the best advice in the world, give good advice to a ton of people. You could start a new business. You could hire people, pay people, have people pay you. There's just so many opportunities with that type of a following that it's got to be better than just a regular CFA charter holder. But hey, it wouldn't hurt to be both, right? So go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't already, and like this video if you could. I really appreciate those things. If you've gotten to this point in the video, it means you watched the whole thing, and I very much appreciate that. You know that the YouTube algorithm loves the long watch times in terms of total minutes watched or just a percentage of this video. Feel free to check out the links in the description down below if you want to get 2 free stocks on Webull or support me on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching.